So the first case is we are going to derive the boundary conditions between the conductor and free space. That means you can see here, you can see this is the conductor, the below one, this is the, this lower part is the conductor part, this is the conductor you can see, and the above part is the free space. That means it can be some air or like that, free space is present. So you are having a conductor and above that you are having some free space. Now the boundary between this conductor and free space is represented with this dark line. Okay, the boundary between this conductor and free space is represented with this dark line, you can see. Okay, this is the boundary. Now at this boundary, what are the conditions for electric field intensity E, electric flux density D, all those we need to derive. Okay, so here at the boundary between the conductor and free space, how you can split the electric field intensity E and electric flux density D, how you can split them means, your total E bar, your total E bar is the sum of tangential component of E bar and normal component of E bar. That means you can see from this, your total electric field intensity at this boundary is the phasor sum, is the phasor sum of tangential component of E bar and normal component of E bar. So E bar is equal to E tan plus En. Similarly, your electric flux density D bar, D bar is also the phasor sum of, D bar is also the phasor sum of tangential component D tan and normal component Dn. That you can observe here, D bar is the phasor sum of D tan and Dn. Okay, now here what are the assumptions means, to find the electric field intensity E and electric flux density D at the boundary between this conductor and conductor and free space, boundary conditions between conductor and free space, we are making some assumptions. Okay, first we are taking a closed path A, B, C, D. We are taking a closed path A, B, C, D, whose width is delta W and its height is delta H. We are assuming like that, A, B, C, D, closed path, and delta H is the height and delta W is the width. Similarly, to find electric flux density D, we are assuming a Gaussian surface, a Gaussian cylinder. When you are looking from the top, the surface area is delta S and its height is delta H. Its height is delta H. Okay, so these are the assumptions that you are taking. Now already we have defined inside the conductor, your E bar, electric field intensity E bar, as well as flux density D bar and rho v are 0. They are completely 0. Only charge will exist on the surface of the conductor, not inside the conductor. So with those assumptions, we are going to derive these equations for boundary conditions. Okay. So here we are taking a closed path in from that previous diagram. That closed path is A, B, C, D. Okay, so its width is delta W and its height is delta H. So on the boundary you are assuming this now. So half of that is above that boundary and half is below this boundary. Okay, and your components of E bar are, this is your E bar, tangential component is E tan and normal component is En. Okay, so this is the assumption for finding electric field intensity E at the boundary between the, this is your conductor below one and this is your free space. Free space. Okay. So here what I am doing means already we have assumptions that inside the conductor your E bar, D bar and rho v are 0. So only at the boundary and above you can consider. Below quantities will become 0 for E bar and D bar. So for a closed path, already in the first unit we have discussed that integral of E bar dot dl bar, which is the potential for a closed path, that is equal to 0. We have already derived this. Now how we can split this closed path? This is in clockwise direction you can split this into 4 parts. Those parts are A to B. First you can consider from A to B E bar dot dl bar, plus you can go to B to C, integral B to C E bar dot dl bar, plus integral C to D. You are considering the direction like this, integral C to D E bar dot dl bar, plus D to A, integral D to A E bar dot dl bar. So that is equal to 0, because we know that for a closed path integral E bar dot dl bar is equal to 0. Okay. So now from this, from A to B, if you consider from A to B, what is the E component? If you consider A to B, what is the E component in this direction? That is matching is E tan. This is the component which is matching with the AB direction. So if you take dot product for two vectors, what is A bar dot D bar? A bar dot B bar is mod A bar mod B bar cos theta. Okay. Now your vector from A to B and your E tan, your differential length is delta W. So from A to B, what is the length that is covered? Delta W. And in that direction, what is E bar component? That is E tan. So if you take mod E bar means mod E tan bar, that is equal to simply its magnitude is E tan. Okay, E tan. So here if you express this, what is the angle between this delta W and E tan? That is 0. So cos 0 is simply 1. So you can separate it as E tan integral A to B dl bar. So this is the first integration value. Integral A to B E bar dot dl bar is equal to, so first E bar component is tan component which is matching with the AB direction. So its magnitude is E tan, and integral A to B dl bar we should still cover. So E tan into what is integral dl bar? What is the length that is covered from A to B? Delta W. So keep this. So integral A to B E bar dot dl bar value is E tan delta W. This is the first integration part. What about the second integration part from B to C E bar dot dl bar? If you express this integral B to C E bar dot dl bar, it can be splitted as, see, here this is the first point and this is the second point at the boundary. So below that boundary, that is inside the conductor D and E all are zeros. Only above the boundary you can define E and other things. So you can split this integral as integral B to 2, from B to 2 E bar dot dl bar, and 2 to C E bar dot dl bar, E bar dot dl bar. Okay. Now from B to 2, what is the dl bar that you are covering? Total length is delta h, total height. From B to 2 means only half. So that dl bar is equal to delta h by 2, half. Here from B to 2, from B to C totally you are having delta h, but from B to 2 you are having delta h by 2. And what is the E bar component that is covered in this direction, vertical direction? The E bar component is En bar. Okay, En bar. That means its magnitude is En. En into delta H by 2. And what about from 2 to C? 2 to C, that is inside the conductor. Inside the conductor, E bar value is 0. That is our assumption. So, plus 0. So, your integral B to C value is En into delta H by 2. En into delta H by 2. Similarly, C to D, integral C to D E bar dot dl bar. So how we can find this? This C to D part is exactly inside the conductor. So inside the conductor E value is 0. So direct integration value is equal to 0. And what about D to A? D to A is similar to B to C integration, but B to C is downwards and D to A is upwards. So what is B to C integration value? That is En delta H by 2. From D to A means what we can find? Simply we can keep minus sign because both are of same magnitudes. So integral D to A E bar dot dl bar is equal to minus En delta H by 2. Okay. So here what is the total E bar dot d bar, that is dl bar, that is splitted into 4 parts, that is equal to 0. Among that, CD part is completely 0 because it is inside the conductor. What about A to B part? A to B part is, that is E tan into delta W, and B to C is En into delta H by 2, and D to A is minus En into delta H by 2. So remember all those values. Now we need to add them because all those sum is equal to 0. So integral A to B E bar dot dl bar plus integral B to C E bar dot dl bar plus integral C to D E bar dot dl bar plus integral D to A E bar dot dl bar. The sum of all these is equal to 0 for a closed path. Now what is A to B value that you have got? That is E tan into delta W. What is B to C value that you have got? B to C value you have got is En into delta H by 2, and this C to D part is 0 because it is completely inside the conductor. And finally D to A is reverse of B to C. So minus En into delta H by 2. All these we have derived just now. That is equal to 0. So your plus En delta H by 2 minus En delta H by 2 will be cancelled. And finally we will left with E tan delta W equal to 0. That means E tan is equal to 0. This is your final condition, boundary condition for electric field intensity between a conductor and free space. So if E tan is equal to 0, what will happen to D tan? Because we know that D bar equal to epsilon into E bar. So from this, if E tan is 0, what will happen to D tan? That is also equal to 0 only. So this is the first part of boundary conditions between the conductor and free space. E tan equal to 0 and D tan equal to 0. Let us go to the next part where you have considered a Gaussian surface. So at the boundary between the conductor and free space, how you are taking D direction? If D is a vector like this, then it can be splitted to dn, and tangential component is d tan. Okay. So for this we are assuming a Gaussian cylinder, whose surface from top is delta S and whose height is delta H. But we know that Gaussian surface will slowly become zero always. Gaussian surface will slowly become zero. That means delta H will tend to zero always. So for that what we are doing means delta H, if it becomes 0 means, so for applying Gauss law here, what is the formula? Q equal to integral d bar dot ds bar. Q equal to integral d bar dot ds bar. So that surface integral can be splitted as, here Gaussian surface has three parts. One is top, one is from bottom, and from lateral surface. So total three parts. So top of d bar dot ds bar, integral bottom of d bar dot ds bar, plus lateral surfaces, complete surface of your cylinder, lateral surface, integral of d bar of ds bar should be equal to q. So now we need to find the three integrals. In that, what about the bottom part? Particularly that bottom part of your cylinder is inside the conductor. Inside the conductor means you are assuming that E bar and D bar are zeros. So as this bottom part is inside the conductor, that will become 0. And you are saying that delta H is tends to 0 because Gaussian surface will slowly shrink to 0. Now after shrinking, your surface area is 2 pi r delta H. As delta H tends to 0, what will happen to its lateral surface area? That will also become equal to 0. So both these parts, this one and this one, they will become 0. It is enough if you find the top integral of d bar dot ds bar. Okay, if you find that, what is a bar dot b bar? Mod a bar mod b bar cos theta. So here top side, which one is matching? Top side delta S. Delta S is the surface area from top side. And which component is matching with this vertical direction? In this vertical direction, your dn bar component is matching. So mod dn bar, that is the magnitude is equal to dn into integral of ds bar, which is equal to dn. What is the differential surface area from top side? That is delta S. So here we are getting top integral of d bar dot ds bar is equal to q. But from our previous derivations, we already know that rho s equal to q by delta S, differential surface area. So from this, what is q? Q is equal to rho s into delta S. Q equal to rho s into delta S. So from that, what is top integral of d bar dot ds bar? That is dn into delta S, and that is equal to, what is q? Q value is rho s into delta S. So here delta F, it is cancelled, delta S is cancelled, and dn equal to rho s. Okay, this is the boundary condition between conductor and free space, where you will have dn is equal to rho s. When dn is equal to rho s, we know that d bar equal to epsilon into E bar. So what will happen to En? That is rho s by epsilon naught. Rho s by epsilon naught. Everywhere we should consider epsilon naught only, because here epsilon r is equal to 1. Here we are having free space. Okay, so the total boundary conditions between a conductor and free space are, previous one is E tan equal to 0, D tan equal to 0, and dn equal to rho s, and En equal to rho s by epsilon naught. So let us summarize all of them. So the boundary conditions between conductor, boundary conditions between a conductor and free space are, so the first part is, if you are looking from tangential side, then E tan equal to 0 and D tan equal to 0. And if you are looking from normal component side, dn equal to rho s and en equal to rho s by epsilon naught. So these are the boundary conditions between a conductor and free space. E tan equal to 0, d tan equal to 0, dn equal to rho s and en equal to rho s by epsilon naught. Okay. Now we are going to see the boundary conditions between a conductor and dielectric. That means here there is a conductor below and there is a dielectric above. Okay. So you are considering the boundary between the conductor and dielectric. Here everything is same derivations, just as you derived in previous derivation, conductor and free space. What are the conditions? D tan equal to 0 and E tan equal to 0. And when you are looking from normal component side, dn equal to rho s and en equal to rho s by epsilon naught. These are the conditions when you are considering the boundary between conductor and free space. Just instead of free space, what you have kept now? Conductor and dielectric. The only change is dielectric will have some relative permittivity epsilon r, that's all. Remaining all are same. So these conditions are same. D tan equal to 0, E tan equal to 0, dn equal to rho s. Just here, instead of writing epsilon naught, we will also include epsilon r, that's all, for conductor and dielectric. That means En equal to rho s by epsilon, where epsilon equal to epsilon naught into epsilon r. Here we are also including the epsilon r, relative permittivity of the dielectric that you are considering. Remaining everything is same. This is the only change that is observed in these boundary conditions. Okay. So two derivations we have completed, that is boundary conditions between a conductor and free space, boundary conditions between a conductor and dielectric. Okay.